We got that so quick it was like drawing a gun. That's all I want to do. I couldn't call it. They had a picture of him.
Right.
When we got this guy.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play something?
Yeah. It was like 14 days. No, it was like 4 months.
Yeah, I just kind of slowed down. Have fun.
And it went and it weren't paying that much to go through that. We were getting.
It gets bad enough. I'll just.
We were getting.
I haven't been involved with bad. Bad.
Hey, when I was on the site, it tries to get you to, you can look, but you can't message any of the people because they're names and stuff. There was like 25 people right in this area.
I know. I mean, you want to go through that? I mean, you can do it, but I have the username and all, and they already got our credit card information. So it's best to just go ahead and.
Yeah, if you need to. Give me the information.
I don't know the information right now. Yeah, I can remember.
I'll be working from here tomorrow because I can't work or Wednesday. So
okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Merriford. Buddy, stuff's rolling. There you go. You have no idea.
Yeah, we can't do our building tomorrow in 24 hours from the time they stop spraying. So Wednesday as well.
Okay. Well, we're alive, darling.
We're going to call this meeting of the Finance Committee of November 11th open. Call to order, please.
Meeting.
Yes.
Cosgrave.
Yes.
Philip.
Here.
Also in attendance, we have Mayor Rick Ellis, BA Matthew Neiheiser, Fiscal Officer Brian Bibler, Council Members Brandy McCreary, Debbie Schaffner, and Rick Foreman. Do we have everybody? Okay, got everybody. And Mr. Brett Rogers, our police chief. And we have approval of the minutes of October 14th of 2024, please. Cosplay moved. Phillips second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Visitors, do you have any visitors? Finance meeting.
Here, I'm actually early for the next meeting.
Okey doke. You want to talk?
No.
Okay. Okay. The goals for 2024 is keep spending within the appropriations. All business. As far as I know, we have none. Review of the monthly financials by the fiscal officer, Mr. Brian, please.
Yes. Let's see. Last month we reconciled all accounts, ending balance of $2,107,982. Outstanding checks of $16,000. We had deposit and transit of $2,800. Receipts last month of $366. Payments last month $232. Yep. And a few adjustments. I avoided some checks, old outstanding checks last month that haven't been cashed. They were written in 2023. I avoided them and put them in the unclaimed fund. I'll probably update the list at the end of the year and include them. We got another, speaking of unclaimed funds, we had another one claimed again. So that list is working.
What's warrant mean?
Huh? Where you at?
Outstanding payments.
Oh, the warrant means check.
Okay.
that's a government term for check.
Okay, so those people have that money coming to them, they just haven't got it yet.
Right. It's like your outstanding, when you reconcile your bank account.
Why does Bob? That's a lot of money for Bob.
Who?
600 Safeway Auto Service, $638.
Well, I was written on the 29th, so probably he didn't get it till after the first month.
Okay.
It takes 2 weeks to get from there to here.
Gotcha, okay.
I've experienced it.
Okay, no worries, I'm just curious.
The update checklist. That's pretty much it for the reconciliation. So you got any questions for that? Moving on, check register. Like I said earlier, last month we had $232,185. I think that's the lowest dollar amount of checks that I've written in quite a while. We've been hovering around close to 300,000 or more last few months. And nothing out of the ordinary there.
Are we buying new computers or something to have Dell a $10,000 payment?
No, that's our Office 365 renewal.
What is that?
10,000 a year?
Yep.
That's the software.
That's the software that's in those things. And
PDF files that don't file.
that's separate. That's Adobe. That's.
We pay more for that.
I'm sorry. What's that?
Is that your water billing or just?
No, that's Office 365. Water bills is Link Computer, which we write them a check every month too. Write them a check for the water bills as well as maintaining our website. Yeah, there's really nothing. Halo Americas, Mr. Rogers, I did write them their check. They finally sent. I asked Brett when we were going to get that invoice a couple months ago, and they happened to call him a couple weeks ago and say, "Hey, we've had an outstanding invoice since April. When are you going to pay us?" And
Whenever you send us the invoice.
never got it. We've had a PO for it since April. So yeah, Dell Marketing is the Office 365 renewal, which that's an annual thing. As long as we got 35 licenses, and are roughly, can't remember how much they are a piece. That's pretty much it there. Any questions? Moving on, the metrics, how interest is $2,458. Rita distribution was $93,000 last month. Appropriation status, we should be around at or below 83%, and it looks like Tim's finally caught up. So everyone, all the major funds that we report are below the 83%. That'll change. I just paid for the water meters last week. Revenue status, we should be where we should be.
You said it should be 83.
83. We're a little bit less than local government, but that fluctuates. But we're right around where we should be. And then the next is the appropriation side. Appropriations reserved for encumbrances, total expenditures by department. Like I said, they're all within norms as we go through the rest of the year.
There's something on the load. Right?
Mhm.
It's good.
That's all I got there.
We have people of the financial statements. I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain. Okay, we got ordinance 2024-41. It is.
Yes. What we're doing here is, the OPWC project for Gordon Street came in higher than what we budgeted for. The OPWC's portion, their kickback or what they're contributing is more, but we contribute 26% of the project, so our contributions went up too, between the street and state and the water funds. However, those two funds don't have the money, so the only way I could figure out how to do this is have the general fund kick in and help out the water and street fund.
Part of that is the little piece of road that we're gonna do as well.
Yeah, that didn't get done last year or earlier this year. That was the
There's
one road.
a piece on Grand, no, that was all included. There's a piece next to the museum by Granville Street. I don't know why it didn't get done last year when they did that project, but it didn't. And when that little piece is done, then everything will be repaid in that area. Cool. And we didn't have the money to do it, so we reappropriated the money so we could finish that project up. It's silly to have 130 yards that's not paid and everything else around paid. People live on that street as well as the museum.
Well, I haven't reappropriated that's why this ordinance is here.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what that ordinance, that's part of that.
So we need to make a motion to send it to council.
Yes. So who seconded that?
Oh, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we have ordinance 2024-42.
Yes, that's to get us going at the first of the year. This is just a temporary budget to keep us afloat. If we don't have any kind of a budget whatsoever, we're not open for business. So basically that is by law. So that's all. This is a temporary thing just to get us through the first 3 months while we hammer out a more permanent budget for next year. And I just basically took last year's temporary budget and brought it forward, made a few changes to some of the, like for his insurance and his benefit stuff. And the ones highlighted in yellow is I'm still working on, so it don't need to be passed as an emergency. They can go through the 3 readings. But again, this is just to get us through the first 3 months of the year.
Okay, so make a motion to send it to council. All in favor? Okay. Available for the Market Street water line.
You tasked us to try to find some money for the water fund market or for the water line on Market Street. Matt and I worked on this a good long time and came up with this, and hopefully you had a chance to look at it. Any questions? So we have
I thought you said we were going to have around 100,000. Last meeting.
Well, that was just an estimate, and now it's nowhere near it. It was at the time, Gar, but when we looked at the numbers, the numbers changed.
Okay, I get it. But what I don't get is we got all this money we can't get our hands on for some reason. I get it. It's been appropriated for this, for that, and the other thing. Is there something through the state that they allow us to move money without a penalty?
No.
For an emergency.
What constitutes a rainy day?
A rainy day fund is defined.
If it rains and raw sewage goes in Walnut Creek, that's not a rainy day.
if brown water's coming out of people's houses or water lines keep fracturing because they haven't been replaced in 60 years, that's not a rainy day. What constitutes a rainy day if those two things don't?
Saving money, and the general fund could help.
Saving money.
But
takes
the general,
priority over changing water lines.
no, you can't run fund. You cannot run deficits in any of the funds. It's a violation of the higher revised code.
So once the money goes in there, it can never ever come back out.
That's correct. That is dictated by chapter 57.
7 figures is locked away, we can never spend it.
7 figures where? Like in his water fund?
No, in
Or the sewer
overall-
fund?
In the overall rainy day.
When we collect money, I record it to where it's supposed to go to. Henceforth, hence the auditors come in every 2 years to look at things. Money goes to general fund. Once the money comes in, for gasoline tax money, a portion of the income tax money, that goes in the street fund. That money is locked for street fund related purposes, cannot be used for anything else. Same with the state highway, same with Mayor's Court Computer Fund, water, all the funds.
Yeah,
That
that's
would-
not the question.
I guess I don't understand your question.
The question is, if we don't spend it in the year we collect it, then we're never able to spend it after that, because we would be deficit spending. If we collect it in 2024, we don't spend it in 2024.
We've been spending it.
And it gets carried over to 2025, it can never be spent. Isn't that what you're understanding?
It depends on, now, I'm not saying it can never be spent.
I think that's what you just said.
It's not wise to spend, but you should have a cushion of at least 2 to 3 months worth of expenditures. The general fund kicks it, spends about was it 100,000 a month? That's what I showed you, the cash flows there. We spend $100,000 a month just alone in general fund. If you look at that second page, we budgeted 1.49 million. We've already spent $1 million. If you track what we project going to be what we're going to spend out of the general fund in the next 2 months, that equals 186. And the GFOA recommends having at least 2 months worth in reserve, and we don't have it.
So when you say the next 2 months, you're talking about like,
November and December.
right, what our part of the Gord Street is. I'm just saying, that's some of that building that you're talking about.
No, that's just for everyday operations, the 217.
I think the fly in the ointment is the $200,000 reserve. I think that's what.
That's what's recommended by the government finances office.
If we don't abide by that, say we decided we were just gonna blow through that, use that 200,000 to fix a water pipe.
Right.
What are the consequences?
Consequences is if when we come in for an audit, if we can't meet payroll and stuff, we go under what the state calls a fiscal caution. And if we don't come out of that, we're declared under fiscal emergency basis, and then the state takes over your finances. That's state auditor takes over. So we don't want to go there.
No, we don't. You know, I guess,
I don't think y'all are talking about the same thing.
Well, in my mind, that's what we're talking about. Maybe,
So let me just throw something out here, just sitting and watching this. Next year, can you appropriate $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000?
yeah, they can.
Okay.
Well, they can, but if after you factor in the budgets from all of the other departments, and if it comes in red, you got to make cuts somewhere.
Well, I think that's what everybody's saying, that based on the money that seems like it's out there in the rainy day fund for next year. Forget this year is way more.
Yeah,
than what-
this year's you can't do it anyway because we
Right,
would
so
over
we're talking next year.
We can allocate money towards that out of the general fund if that's what council wants to try to do. That's fine. We can work that in. We can work those numbers in. I'm not saying you can't spend it. I'm just saying it's not wise to deplete the general fund. Now, the council does control the purse here. Now, you do know that right now, the income tax, we allocate the income tax to 3 funds. The general fund gets 54%. The street fund gets 40%, and the swimming pool fund gets 3%. 3%.
What was the third one?
The swimming pool. And they need it because otherwise general fund would be transferring money over there to Kelvin. So you can shuffle those percentages if need be to put more money in the general fund. But the word there is then you're taking away from the street fund, which means you're not getting as many streets paid. So there's a vice versa. So that's one option you can do. Another option, and I say, if you want to do, it used to be back in the day when it first started, all the proceeds went into the general fund, 100%. That's fine. You can do that, but then you would want to put in your budget how much you're going to give to streets, how much you're going to give to the swimming pool fund, that kind of stuff.
Well, so I guess for me, in January, the first meeting I came to, we had, and I'm just, hear me out, because I know it's more complicated than this, Brian.
Look.
But we had $760,000 January 10th, or whatever the first meeting I came. So at the end of this year, January, the first meeting in January, we have $2 million. It just seems like we jumped. I'm not saying we don't need that $2 million to operate, but it just seems like there's more. So next year, will there be $3 million at the end of 25? And that's all I'm trying. You see what I'm saying? Right.
Well, I mean, if you look at the first page, is what you got to look at.
Right.
I mean, the 2.1 million, that's our total fund balance of all the funds. It's made up of two bank accounts, Park National and Star Ohio. And I put it this way to show you, because I talk about, well, let's just take the money out of Star Ohio and put it, it doesn't change. As you can see, the progressive motor vehicle and ParkNet is negative. The only thing holding that fund afloat right now is the Star Ohio. So moving money from between these two bank accounts doesn't matter. It is what it is. Yes, we have $2.1 million, but of that, 600,000 is general fund, and the rest of it's 70,
Right.
Whatever the rest of the funds.
Right. No, that makes sense to me, the way you just explained.
We're going to have $2 million again carried over this year, probably. But again, you got the streets, it's all those funds that you cannot use for other purposes, but for what the fund's intended for. That's no. If we let's say, Agar, you wanted me to move money from the street fund to the water fund, okay? I'll tell you what's going to happen. An auditor is going to come in and see that, and they say that's an illegal transfer, and they're going to force us to pay it back. That's what's going to happen.
But my question is, if we say we had an emergency with our water, which I believe we do.
Okay.
I mean, there might be other people in the room that don't believe it's an emergency, but when I can't drink my water coming out of my tap, and we've got raw sewage going into Walnut Creek, I think that's an emergency.
That's an emergency, but by law, we cannot do it.
They're going to say because of that, we cannot transfer funds.
Not from those other funds that are restricted as to their use.
But there's really only 3 funds that are restricted.
No.
Sewer, water, and streets.
No, every one of those funds, except there's only one fund that's unrestricted. All the other funds are restricted.
Okay, enumerate those funds. How many funds are we talking about?
Well, how many? It's every fund is restricted as to its use to what you can use the money for, except for the general fund.
So there's sewer,
The sewer,
and there's water,
there's water,
and there's streets,
there's streets,
and then there's general.
general.
That's all the funds, isn't it?
No, you got the state highway, the urban forestry grant fund, the progressive motor vehicle license tax fund, enforcement education, mayor's court computer, bicentennial commission this year, water operating swimming pool fund, water improvement fund, sewer improvement fund.
And all of those are restricted.
All of those, every one of those are restricted in accordance with chapter 570510 of the Ohio Revised Code.
I think we need to go to the state and ask for grant.
Well, we were working on that. Yeah. We're definitely.
At the bottom that says we have like $28,000 in order to work on that water.
And that $28,000 is coming from the general fund, so there's absolutely no money left in the water fund.
That's what's projected to be carried over next year in the water fund.
Yeah, there's
Water fund only.
water. He doesn't have hardly anything.
No, I'm struggling right now. He's got 2 months and
Right, to
he's-
make payroll and combine things. If something came up in the water right now, we'd have some problems.
and
If I read this right, then the general fund is gonna be short like $13,000 of the $200,000 suggested to the 30.
yeah,
So then the remaining, that 13,000 is gonna come from probably what, the water fund?
No, that's just the shortfall that is recommended that we have
It's
on
not even
hand.
really a
It's
shortfall.
not,
It's a
yeah,
shortfall of what they recommend.
what they recommend, yeah, what they
Not
recommend.
even a shortfall at all.
It's not a shortfall, but
That's what really starts to rub me the wrong way is the terminology. Like, this looks like a $13,000 shortfall, and it's not.
it's not, but
It's not.
no.
So I guess my question to you guys, council, is should we try to put more money in the general fund before the end of the year? Is
We
that,
have, the council has, in my memory, reallocated the percentages that go into each fund.
Yeah, the last time
We
it
gave
occurred,
more to the pools.
it used to be 5% of the swimming pool fund. They cut it to 3%. That's 3%. I wouldn't go below the 3%.
well, we can't. Really.
Well, I just, that's my recommendation. It's up to them. I mean, Chuck always said, just
Fill it in.
fill it in.
Fill it in.
Yeah, but the last time they changed it was during the year of COVID. Council got scared. No one knew what was going to happen. So they said they passed an ordinance to all income tax goes to the general fund. And then at the end of that year, they reverted back. But the following year, I kept track of the shortfalls for those funds. And council did authorize transfers into those funds to pay back some of it, not all of it, but some of it, including give money to some of the water fund to do some things. But
We may have to do that.
And you set up, of course, the capital improvements fund for the water and the sewer.
we did those, and the sewer improvement, they're the improvement funds. The sewer improvement fund is growing. The one that's not is unfortunately the water.
Right.
And I have yet to figure out how to fund that. You got the grave,
Tap fees.
short of tap fees. Nothing else is going in there.
And that's the one we could use. For
Yes.
infrastructure improvement. If we could build it.
And Scott's used a good portion of that this year. What we had at the beginning of the year to do the wells.
Right.
Because he didn't have the money in the other fund.
Right. But that's why we created that fund.
Yes.
It worked, so.
Anybody else?
Okay. If there's anything else that we can see on finance? Nope, the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, December the 9th at 6 p.m. Have a motion to adjourn. And I second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Rachel.
Rules is called to order, 6:25 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Schaffner, Foreman, and McCreary.
Present. Also in attendance, we have the other council members, Lee, Garth Phillips, and Wayne Cosgrave, Merrick Ellis, Chief Brett Rogers, V.A. Matt Nyheiser, and the Watson. We all have a motion for to approve the minutes.
Or make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
McCurry, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Visitors, anybody want to speak to that rules committee? We have, I guess I'm supposed to. Okay. So
Steve, not right now. He's on board later in the meeting.
the council.
No, for on your agenda, on what's on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay.
29 Fort Meadows. Village Alleys has been tabled.
I will tell you that Tim has a plan, and I have talked about it. We're gonna come up with a map this winter when things slow down for him, of every alley in the village, of what ones are being used, what ones aren't being used, and we're going to come up with some kind of a plan to fix some of them, or to either not make them alleys anymore, but there is he and I talked about it just 2 weeks ago.
We had those. They were back there on the table throughout the whole village. But
Well, we have the map from the county
Right,
that shows what's already been abandoned.
Did you find that?
But no
Did you find that?
yeah, but I'm just saying, so there is a plan to address the alleys for sure.
All right, on old business, home businesses. So so I had to get past the definition of home business and the reason that we are looking at this. So I prepared a short document to send it to everybody this afternoon. If you have, how do you feel about what I sent to you?
I didn't get it till right when I was coming.
I didn't get it till I had gone through all my documents. I got it.
I appreciate this, but I do have some notes that I've made
Okay.
to discuss. So I'm going through the information that we've been discussing. So I looked at that comparative chart. The comparison chart that has the different municipalities. So Pickerington has a $50 fee. So what are we wanting to do with the fees for this occupation? Are we trying to assess fees?
I think we already have a fee established. Don't we, on that chart?
I'm sorry, what?
I think we already have a fee established. What is that?
It's not on that chart, it just says fees. Then Pickerington says $50.
I think ours is like $50.
And so that is for paperwork, like what is that covering?
They check a box on one of the zoning applications out here, and
I think it's to cover, because the VA has to get involved.
Yeah.
When you go back, when you go and look at all those guidelines that, it's got to be no more than this much percent. I think Terry at least used to go and make sure that those guidelines were all within our parameters before approving the home.
And are we currently, that's already happening? That's correct, okay. So there were a couple of those, I guess, home occupations that I was questioning. There were ones that were essentially okay, and then the list that not approved. So I was wondering, what are we trying to encourage and what are we trying to prevent with those? Because I could see some of them because there would be definitely an increased number of vehicles. Parking could potentially be an issue. But like palm reading, fortune telling, it's not our job to determine what they are, but what are the problems that could bring? So
Well, that would be traffic. But if we go back to what I sent this afternoon, I think you have to go back and look at the reason why we're doing this. And there's,
I did look at that.
and there's two reasons. One of them being taxes, just make sure that somebody who is self-employed is paying their taxes. So
Here's what I talked to the mayor of Granville last week, and we had an hour and a half long conversation. She's been the mayor for 19 years. And I asked her what they did over there. And of course, there's a university in that village, so it's a little trickier for them. But she said, good luck. She said, because what they got frustrated because it's not up to the village to see if somebody's paying their taxes, or she just said it's hard. A guy with a truck and a lawnmower can be a landscape business. But is he? Or is he just, she said it's
truck and a lawnmower.
Yeah, it's just a hard, she just said it's a slippery slope. She said it's hard she goes, it's a good thing to do, but she said, how do you enforce it? That's the problem.
I feel like what we've done over the last many years has been adequate. So I'm not sure why it's back on the table. We make them register.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is, there was another one. So on there, we did not approve, it says not approved bed and breakfast. And looking at some of the ones that are approved, I think it's hard to say this one's going to generate, some of them are very easy, but some of them not so easy in terms of the generating of the traffic, changing the environment. I get why you wouldn't want maybe a small engine shop noise. I get it. And, you know, numerous lawnmowers and such parked around there. But I was just trying to think of what were our deciding factors beyond because some of them didn't seem
And that
as
list,
cut and dry.
that list was for that purpose, for us to discuss it.
Okay,
And see
so that's what
what
I'm
we,
doing.
yeah, and see what we wanted to include and what we didn't want. As far as what we have done has been sufficient. When I brought this up, not one person knew about it. Not one.
I think it was been discussed, as I remember.
No. When I brought it up, everybody said, well, I don't know what to talk about. I don't think we've ever anything like that. And every person in here.
Then we knew that they have to register with the village. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
But
We
this
don't
says
know
you
the
have to
details
register
of
with
the
the
current zone or the
But-
current rules.
Okay, here's a
But we do
question for
exist.
Jeff Baco. Without that ordinance, do they have to register with the village? Because we don't have an ordinance that says you have to register with it.
No, we don't, except, that people do or are supposed to for RENA, for tax, right, administration purposes. So that's correct.
So this would be like.
But but technically, because we don't have that ordinance, you couldn't really require somebody to do. We had we had the guidelines as to what a home business would have to entail, but we never had an ordinance, and that's what this ordinance was all about in the first place. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just saying, so looking at these, I think it's hard to be black and white about the ones that are prohibited, the ones that would be allowed. So the permitted, I just think some of these, it's too, they're blurry. It's.
Yeah, I mean, even like say a lawn care business, let's say all the equipment is kept in a storage unit. All of the employees pick up the equipment and drop off the equipment in the storage unit. All you really do at the house is the paperwork and the phone calls from the customers and the vendors, and no traffic has changed. Nobody comes to the house except the person that's actually running the business, but he's operating a lawn care service from his home. But he's not, I think what we worry more about is whether we're inconveniencing our neighbors through excessive traffic or equipment or
Noise.
inconveniences. That to me could be a problem if your business has gotten so big that it really doesn't belong in a residential neighborhood. How do we draw that line or that distinction? How do we make you stop doing that? The tax part of it, I think Rita is far more capable than we will ever be. And that if we feel like we need to duplicate Rita's efforts, I think we're delusional. They do an over the top aggressive job already, and that we can't really improve upon what they always do.
This is where we differ, because the lady across the street from me who's babysitting, you think that Rita knows she's babysitting?
But it's not us to police it though. That's what I
I
don't know.
think if she's got income, she's not reporting, she's got bigger problems with bigger people than the village board.
So we're not interested, so we don't care.
Like the federal government and the state government and Rita.
So we don't care that they're.
I'm not saying we don't care, I'm just saying all these other people are better equipped to root out people like her
I'm
and hold
gonna
her
say,
accountable than we are.
I would want them to pay the taxes, I guess.
Yeah, most of the parents are
Enforcing
claiming that on their
this on
taxes.
top of the Rita, is it redundant?
What's that?
Trying to enforce this on top of Rita, is it redundant? Or would we be putting energy towards something that's already been taken care
Right,
of
because like
at a higher level?
most parents want to be able to take their child care costs off their taxes. So most parents are reporting who they're paying child care to, so they can deduct it from their taxes. And if that person's gonna let that happen and take a chance on not paying their taxes, more power to them. They're gonna get caught. They're gonna go to jail.
And I'm not.
And we don't have that authority.
And Rita, well, they always look at the returns that you would do versus the feds to make sure everything match.
So where do we go with this then?
Like the one thing, like this is just one more example, like contracting, masonry, plumbing, painting. I'll bet you there's 50 vehicles in this village right now, and the guy's a plumber, a contractor, a painter,
I mean, independent.
I could think of a fence builder and a painter
Yeah.
right here.
I'm just saying, I just don't know how we can go after them. As long as they're, again, if it's inconvenience for the neighbors, then it's gotta be brought to our attention, then it's
A zoning.
a zoning
If they
issue.
haven't brought someone yet, then
Yeah, I guess that's the,
I'm just trying to pin down what our goals or our objective is.
right.
And are we going to accomplish that? If our goal is taxes, I think we're out of our wheelhouse and we're better people equipped.
Then we take that part off.
And if our goal is inconvenience to neighbors, it's more of a zoning thing than it is.
Then I think that'd be an as-is based, like,
yeah,
yes,
complaint-based
complaint based.
investigation.
So where do we go with this thing?
86. Or 86.
I think it's a good,
I think it's a good thought, but, you know, if I'm catching everybody, I think Deb's trying to catch.
And
It's
that's
not a bad
fine.
thing at all.
I'm not against revisiting it and saying,
Yeah.
do we need to do anything here?
Right.
I think what I feel like is, I don't feel like we need to do anything there, but I'm just one person.
My understanding was that Terry used to, or I don't know, Terry, maybe in conjunction with you, used to send Rita information about the people who did have home-based businesses here, so they made sure.
I don't know how we could do that.
There was one time she approached me. There was a place over there on Coomler by the football field. There was some guy had a garage or something.
Small engine repair.
Yeah. And she had me, I emailed my contact at Rita. They looked into it, came back, said, no, everything's fine.
I think maybe Kevin Garage did.
Huh?
Did he make Kevin Garage did?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but he was up to date on his taxes and he was claiming that at the time.
I wasn't worried about our zoning goal because we were all over because the garages.
But he's paying
his taxes.
Yeah.
He was way more afraid of them than he was us.
I think if there's complaints on a small business and it comes to council, it comes to the village, then it's gonna be up to Matt to figure out.
We go to the zoning code, we violate it.
It's just like the place down here, the tea party place, I said, send them a letter. Yep. Like, that's not, I mean, that's obvious, that's something of the business, you know?
So the ordinance is tabled. I mean,
Usually when we want to kill them, if we decide we want to kill them, what we've done in the past is make a motion to pass it and then nobody votes for it.
why do you want to kill
I'm
it?
not saying kill it, I'm just saying, as it sits right now, I'm not for it. So I'd be a no-go.
So you don't think that people, that we should require, so then we're getting rid of it?
Right, so I want to
Well,
vote.
that's what the ordinance is. The ordinance is
You want to give it teeth. I think that's what I'm hearing.
the ordinance is just saying you have to register with the city or the village if you have your own business. That's what the ordinance says.
My problem isn't with that. Again, I'm saying, I'm questioning, is it redundant? And then I questioned, what is our goal, main goal, what's our objective? And I think we decided that is, we want to make sure that we are not ticking off neighbors, that we're being good community members, etc. And they're paying taxes. I get that, yes.
The ordinance doesn't have any of this extraneous information in it. Jeff, is that correct? It just says,
Kind of a bare bones.
yeah, it just says you have to, we have, again,
You just want to
we have
register.
guidelines as to what you have to do if you have a home business, but we have no requirement.
So you're just saying, if you have a business.
You have to register.
Yes, a register, that's all.
And if it's that simple language,
The list of allowed and not allowed.
no.
I think those were examples then. Okay,
Yeah.
I definitely.
Yeah, you guys were going to do comparing what other places are
Right.
doing to see if you could add more
But
teeth
yeah,
to it.
that's a good ordinance, because then there isn't an ordinance, if you have a business, you can just, anyway,
Yes.
massage parlor or whatever, with no permission. I know.
I know.
opened the door and
I started a business in my home, and I have to be honest, the first thing that crossed my mind was that, oh, I need to run down to the village to register.
Right.
I just started my business.
Right.
I don't know whether it'll really make any difference, but saying that you have to register, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
So you have to be taken to council.
I thought we already took it to council.
Okay, that,
It's been tabled.
Yeah, it's at council, it's a
So-
good thing.
we need to move
Okay, so
on
once
table.
again,
You could do that in council.
so once again, Brian gets notification from Rita that Debbie Dugu over here has a business and she's getting money from it. So then he knows, oh my gosh, she's got a business. She's got a home business. So then Matt goes and says, wait, you gotta register with us if you've got a business. Is that what we're saying?
Does Rita notify you of that?
No.
I didn't think so. No, they don't.
If they register, you're not gonna notify Rita.
If they register, yeah, we notify
Yeah, we
Rita.
do. Yeah. That's why if it was an ordinance, it would be good, because then they would have.
No, I think we've done it before anyway. This just puts it in writing that we were required to.
Right.
Yeah, as I say, it already
Right.
exists.
It already exists. It's,
Right. It should be an ordinance, that's.
And
It
just
just-
on a case by case basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's allowed and what's not?
No,
What? I mean,
if there's not a problem with it in the register, then so be it.
I just worry about the case by case business for it, because in this town, that's been.
I think all that we're saying is, if there is an ordinance that says, if you have a business in the village of Baltimore, you gotta register that. Okay, now, if you choose not to do that, we're not gonna be the police and go check that out, unless then it becomes a case by case business, like what you're saying, or like,
well, if they're making money, then it's a whole business.
but we're not gonna police.
if a neighbor would call, hey,
Yes,
did they register? That's when Matt would come into play and probably visit them and ask them if they registered. If they're running a business, they haven't, please come down to the office and register.
But if they're saying, oh, no, it's not a whole business, couldn't we contact Rita and have them?
Well, we would tip them off.
Yeah,
We would tip
yeah,
them off.
Rita has no way of knowing if I'm running a child business out of my home.
No.
Rita doesn't.
They don't
She's
know.
paying taxes on that.
She's paying on, like I said, Rita, when people file their taxes, they do compare what they're reporting to the village. They're comparing it against the state and the feds.
But if they don't report any income because it's a cash business, then you're not gonna.
Well, then, yeah, there's nothing they can do.
And then you can't do much about it.
There's just not much you can do.
There's nothing we can do either.
No.
Nope. But it isn't a bad word to have, just to say, you have a business in the village of Baltimore, you gotta register. Just that, but we're not going to any specific things about this business, then it wouldn't be a case by case basis. All right,
That's it. You gotta hold it in.
Council, in council.
Do we have to have a motion to take it to council?
No, it's already, it's up for a third reading.
If you untable it tonight, you either pass it or fail.
Yeah.
okay. So we're done with,
I think Steve is like.
Steve, yeah.
Well, the tree commission update, that's you. That's you. Yep. That's documented. He's gonna be talking about he wants to modify chapter 1272 of the codified ordinances. It was handed out.
I'm here representing the board's commission. We meet every month and we talk about a lot of different things, and the catalyst for us to look at this particular chapter, the general development standards, came from the fact that you know that there's a couple of developments being considered around the village. And we felt it was time to take a look at the requirements, in particular for the landscape component of that. And I don't know the history of what is now chapter 1272, but it's pretty apparent in reading it through that it was really written by presumably a consultant who knew what they were doing. Because overall, it's very sound and has served the village well. But it probably hasn't been really looked at in a while, and we feel like there are some tweaks that could be made to make it better. So we can just kind of go through those if you would like. Shouldn't take too long. So the first change really is not until we get to yes, page, well, I don't know how big you go on your copies, but I'm looking at 1272.08 is the first real change. I made a few notes about stuff we liked that was in there, but we're not talking about changing any of that. The first, and there's no change in 1272.08. I guess our question there is, if we're reading that correctly, does the village want to enforce that? Because I've seen a lot of new structures built in the village over the past 5 or 10 years. And no landscape plans have been submitted that we're aware of. In the past, the VAs have always told us that they would bring those to us because that wasn't really their wheelhouse. And I don't think we've ever looked at one for a residential property. We have reviewed a couple of commercial properties that have come through in recent years. But if I'm reading 1272.08 correctly, that applies really, and I'm quoting here, to any building, structure, or vehicular use area, requires a landscaping plan to be submitted. So that's a question for you all to consider. We want that enforced, so we can work with Matt on how he wants to handle that, whether he wants to include the tree commission in that process, because we're happy to be involved. But we're not suggesting any changes to the language in that section. It's on the next page in D, street tree requirements. So this is 1272.08D, where we are suggesting some tweaks. And I don't.
I have a blank page when he was talking about, and then mine goes from C to F.
Well, I printed from the codified ordinances, so it might have missed a page. There might be a page.
I have a D on what the left corner is page 253 for me.
It's on mine.
It's on mine.
Yeah.
Go to 7.
Oh, that's the
page
blank
7.
page. I have a blank page.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
I guess what I would say, Steve,
No, right there.
as far as
We found it.
with the development that's coming,
Okay, here we go.
and I'm not speaking for everybody, but for myself, I definitely would want you involved. If we have a development that's coming in, and when it comes to street trees and stuff like that, I would think that would only make sense. That's why we have a street tree department. You know what I mean? Okay. So I would think that we would obviously want you involved in that 100%. So.
And I should add, we are assuming that any already approved developments would not fall under these changes.
Right.
Obviously, this would only apply to future projects. But there in D, the primary thing we're suggesting is that we're adding the language that all planting in the right of way or all planting in the right of way should be approved by the zoning administrator or their designee. Because right now it doesn't say that, and I've seen too many examples where the contractors or the developers just go in and do things, and then later you realize, well, that was pretty badly done. Yeah. And then we did have a question on this section, which perhaps is for the solicitor. We're suggesting we add the words rights of way in here, which I think we understand very clearly. But the village, of course, has a lot of streets in which there are not platted rights of way. The property lines go to the center line of the street because they were presumably annexed into the village later. And so how do we address the easements that allow streets and sidewalks and things, and fire hydrants and things? Do we need to add the word easement in here?
I would, and what I would suggest is, can you put together your proposal in writing and on behalf of the tree commission and just, it doesn't have to be anything super lengthy, but just to hit the bullet points and say, here's what the tree commission is proposing, here are the proposed amendments, and then I can look at it and we can discuss it further in committee. So,
okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
That would be great. That would be helpful if you could.
Okay.
But I think we're all in agreement that any development we want to commission involved in street planning and everything. I mean, so
And then I can put together a draft of an ordinance that incorporates those changes and then circulate that to council.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
And I am working on a version that I think we converted from a PDF since we don't have the code in Word. So
Gotcha.
There's going to be some formatting glitches and things in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So leave this on the agenda then. Leave this on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, leave this on the agenda.
Oh. Anyone old business? New business, yeah, we haven't rejected to 20.
Well, yeah, I'll let you talk.
I don't remember this either.
Oh, it's the, here.
Oh, so in our recent public meeting, there was questions about time limits and how much is given and how much is not given. It was made mention of by several individuals about maybe decreasing the amount from 5 to 3.
Yes.
Brian and I just, when we were putting this together, when Brian was putting it together, we were talking about it. We just wanted to bring that up for council to discuss, if you want to discuss it.
On page 20 there, it says comments from guests, they'll be limited to 5 minutes per, unless for a total of 30 minutes total time for the agenda item. With a lot of people, we've had limited to 3. However, if you want to change, that's fine, but I don't think it's needed because on the next page, I found this, any provision except the division for this may be suspended with the affirmative vote. So if you wanted to change it from 5 minutes to 3 minutes
Or expand it.
5 minutes.
you guys would have to authorize that. Way I understand that, correct? During the meeting before the speak. So I just reiterating what this is going to talk about, making it 5 to 3. There's flexibility right here. I found this, discovered it Friday. Yeah, Friday. I said, I don't think it needs change. It says right here, council just has to approve it.
Okay.
Just making you aware.
Yes, thank you.
We defer to that. There's no requirement that our village or any municipality offer a public comment section. We do, and most communities do, but there's no requirement. And there's no requirement that that be a question and answer session. Because sometimes visitors will say, well, what about this? And I want to ask you this. What's your answer to that? Council doesn't have to respond. It's their opportunity to say what's on their mind, and council can move on and choose to address it later, or choose not to address it at all. Just a reminder, so.
All right, anything else for rules committee? Anything else from the visitors for rules committee? That's not. Motion. Next meeting will be second Monday in December 9th, 6:30. And the finance. German. One thing.
Okay, so we need to get this signed.
Or maybe Brian does.
What's that?
You have the ordinance on the home occupation. I'm sorry.
Let me look.
Okay.
What number was that?
The ordinance number
No, I do not have it.
is, you don't have it?
No.
2024-23.
No.
Does anybody have a copy of the ordinance? I don't have it. Yes.
Yeah, I've got it printed here.
Oh, you do? That's what I need to see.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Ben. How are you, brother? Good. Hi, Ben. Sir. You talked to Tim today? No, I haven't, but I need to.
Has there been a public hearing?
Oh, what?
This ordinance that they just discussed.
No, that's not the home occupation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
You're amending the zoning.
I don't know. Has this went through zoning?
I think home occupancy predates my beginning. I'm not sure how.
Then,
A little bit too heavy
And-
on that,
and-
long.
They can't be passed like.
I'll mention that. Yeah, it was before you. Yeah,
I left it blank there.
Oh,
Did it go through zoning?
That I don't know. But if there wasn't a public hearing, then
Did it,
I don't know. Longer would know.
I might have to go on zoning.
I done that, Gary. I had that.
Used to, when we went to.
I was gonna say, hey, that's a good meeting.
It is, because we used to, when we was in the school board meeting, I'd call him like 30 times.
it's home occupation. I don't think it's just been a public hearing on it. So I can't. I would just.
And I don't even know if the planning and zoning commission has reviewed it.
I would just recommend it.
I don't know if the planning and zoning's reviewed it yet.
I don't remember there being a public.
Hopefully he doesn't show what I just texted him to school.
So, but it'll have to go, so it has to go to zoning.
It has to go to zoning. And then they meet this week, so we can add it to their
Yeah,
agenda.
we'll add it to the agenda. I'll bring it up. That's, because I'll be at that meeting.
It's just,
Just an
we
ordinance.
have the, we say we have the rule, but we don't really have the rule.
Do you have the meat and potatoes for this?
That's it. That is the.
Well, that is-
It's just to amend it to require registration.
Oh, okay, all right.
There was a discussion about all the other stuff.
Oh, okay.
The description of what.
Did you miss that, Brian?
Evidently I did.
Where were you?
Evidently I did.
Sorry.
Okay, we ask everybody to join us. Lord's Prayer. Father, Lord's art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'd like to we'll do a roll call, but first I would like to acknowledge, I know at least 2 council members in here that are veterans, and I'd like to acknowledge Gordon Wade, and I want to say personally, thank you. Today is Veterans Day. If there's any veterans and visitors, I'd like to thank you as well. Okay, with that, let's have a roll call.
Cosgray.
Present.
Foreman. Here. McCreary.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of October 28th.
We'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it. Roll call on that, please.
Foreman.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Reedy.
We'll make the motion to approve the agenda as written.
Very second.
Get a roll call on that, Ryan.
Foreman.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
We obviously have some visitors tonight. Everybody that would like to speak is signed up. Brian will call you up.
Barry Pimer.
You missed last week's meeting at the township. You were on the agenda.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I did. They knew I wasn't coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you there. Can you run the agenda?
Yes. I told them I could. I had to call them last minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's okay. There's another day. Okay, we're talking about solar, Eastern Cottontail. And last time, Misty had given you a book to go through. We have some updates, and so we'd like to swap books out. I don't know if anybody has it.
It's on my desk.
Oh, okay. Yep. Anyway, we have the homes impacted by the project, and so we've got a big pie chart now with that, and including the additional land that they leased that is supposed to be project number 2, is going to be part of the original project. It's over 1,000 homes. And then we also put in that.
Sure. When you say affected, what does that mean?
Ones that are, well, there, we have the pie chart that shows homes that are adjacent to the property, within 500 feet of the property, within a mile of the property, meaning the project, because in a lot of places it's visible and they can be affected by whether it's construction traffic or the fact that there's not going to be any landscaping whatsoever in certain areas, and you drive by and it's like, you know, we have cyclists that cycle on all those roads over there. Actually, part of the Buckeye Lake, what's it called? BLT, Buckeye Lake. I want to say Buckeye Lake for tomorrow, but that's not.
Sure, I think they're timing you, so you don't have to go into.
No, I just, anyway, there's an official bike trail, is what I was trying to think of, that they don't have on their map, that is on there. But we have simulations, a couple, this was from the Kingwood project, and you can see the before and then simulation of what it would look like after. And so those things were added to the book. And then, so that's all I've got. And then I think one of the others are going to come up and do the other handout. Sure.
Would that be Josephine Price?
Thank you to the vets. I sure appreciate you. I'm going to talk about solar also. I know you had some concerns about property rights. We live in a constitutional republic. We have unalienable rights given to us by God above that our forefathers had the foresight to put in our Constitution. And they were put there so that we would not have a tyranny where somebody comes and runs over the little guy just because they have more balls in their butt. So that is one of the biggest issues with this, is that we're setting ourselves up to undermine zoning. Because solar can come in and isolate and come underneath zoning, totally ignore zoning. You're opening yourself up for losing your ability to zone. So that is a big concern. The other thing is they are not being forthright with what chemicals are being used in solar panels. That is a big concern, as we have high sustained winds in this area are 6 miles an hour. You're within a couple miles of this project. That could be in your town in a matter of a half hour or less. Can you evacuate a town and a full school system in less than an hour? Because they do not put these fires out. I have 6 grandchildren, 3 at this school and 3 in middle school. They're the most precious things in this world to me. And I will not let these chemicals be spewed out in our community and not be prepared for them. And we can't prepare for them because even our fire departments are not equipped to put the fires out. We have other information for you to see in regards to how many people this will affect, but please keep in mind the little people, because they all count, they all matter. Thank you for your time.
Tina
Melanovic.
Lenovic, okay.
I'll wait till Sherry finishes, but don't start.
Greetings, my name is Tina Milanovic. I actually live outside of Pleasantville, about 5 miles from here out in the country, and we're within a 10th of a mile of this proposed Eastern Continental project. I have a master's degree in natural resources, and when I look through the information that's been provided to us, partly by Eastern Cottontail, but also by other projects that have already been installed in different places around the state or even in other places in the country, even in other places in the world. We've just recently seen an article where they've done a study, a 7-year study of what happens to the soil from Italy. So there are lots of people who are very concerned about these solar projects. You need to understand, I hope everyone is very aware that we are not opposed to solar. We're not opposed to industrial solar. We're opposed to industrial solar, utility solar on prime farm ground in rural residential zoned areas. Put it on top of Amazon, put it on top of Google. That would be great. Those are perfect places for that. They can handle that, but they are not choosing to do that for, I'm sure, a multitude of reasons, but we think it's very irresponsible of them to actually want to put it on prime farm grounds. Some of the significant concerns that I have, besides the fact that my property rights are being infringed upon, but has to do with the environmental degradation that will occur. I'm not going to say possibly occur. It will occur from the fact that they are removing topsoil. When that topsoil is removed, you can go down to farm that. They say, oh, we can redo that after 30 years. No, the studies are coming back, especially this Italy study, that say that's not going to be possible. And that's after 7 years, not 30 years. We are very concerned about flooding. We've seen instances of that having to do with a site down in Chillicothe. In fact, one of the meetings that we had, a gentleman who signed up and his property is a part of one of those projects. He was at that meeting, as well as his neighbor who did not sign up, but was affected by flooding and soil erosion, lots of other issues that he had. And the man who signed up his project, he stood in front of us in tears and said, I wish I would have never done this. And I've gone to all of my neighbors and have apologized because I didn't realize what I was going to be doing. So soil erosion, flooding in our areas, the toxic chemicals that can be leached into the ground and into the groundwater and into the surface water that will end up making itself to its way to Buckeye Lake, and on and on and on. This is, again, to me, to us who are really studying these things, it's like raping the land. Again, we do not oppose solar, but putting it on this prime farm ground is a degradation to not only where we live, but all of the communities. And so we thank you for your time tonight. And as they mentioned here on this paper that you've received, and hopefully you can maybe make another copy, but in January, this will be coming before the Ohio Power Siting Board as far as public comments. And we are asking this community, you as leaders, to create a letter and sign it and send it in to Ohio Power Siting Board, asking for them to deny this project. And the address and information is on the back, and inside the notebook that we are presenting to you tonight are sample letters from other communities, because there are many townships and other communities that have already done this. And so we're asking for this letter by December 13th. Yes, December 13th. And it would be very important for the Ohio Power Siting Board to see you as leaders notifying them that you consider this an important step to take in order to deny this project. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes, please.
You talk about prime farmland.
Yes.
What percentage of Eastern Continental will be on prime farmland?
All of it.
Okay. And you're sure of that?
So here in Ohio, the type of farm ground that we have here, considering the soils, even from the very beginning, we are an amazing area because of the soil type that we have here. I'm not an agronomist, but my degree in natural resources, plus I also worked for Ohio State University Extension for many years and worked with the College of Agriculture and teaching programs having to do with natural resources and horticulture and so forth. And yes, Ohio is prime farm ground. When you look at it on a global scale and a United States scale, Ohio has prime farm ground.
So there is no farmland. Let's just take one farmer, and I don't know how many acres, and he has absolutely no farmland that is not fine.
So if you want to get down to those brass tacks, and you're saying, okay, we've got a creek going through, obviously that can't be farm ground. But I would say as far
rocks, minerals, rocks, trees.
Oh, our topsoil is really good in the state of Ohio. Yes, I mean if you want to say 95%, sure, but it's a significant portion of the land, the farms, in Ohio, period. Especially in the period that happened through the glaciation, and when the glaciers retreated, and there was a lot of soil that was here, as well as flooding has occurred over time for different time periods, different areas. That the sediments that would be laid down from that helped to also create that. Plus, a lot of the decaying matter that came because Ohio was mostly forested. Until they started to chop down the trees for the farms, and that's why they forested all that area, because it created such great farmland and have such great soil. And so when all of those trees all had leaves that would come down because they were in deciduous forest, and those leaves created a nice litter that created then broke down and added a lot of humus, what we call humus, not the kind of stuff that you get at the store to eat, not that kind, but it has to do with some of the yes, it's great. Any other questions?
So, would it be safe to say that instead of a letter, I mean, we could still do the letter, but as a council, if we voted no in-ground solar panels to any new annexation, that would send a message too?
So I'm gonna are you on the schedule? Frank or somebody else?
Melissa's next.
Didn't we already
instruct
you to send a letter?
No.
Oh, I thought we did. No.
So I'm a natural resources person, I'm a garden person, and that's me. But when you start getting into the other annexation and that's not my forte, and I would be glad to defer those comments to another.
Melissa Connor's next.
Before we started to answer whatever question that was, I will add to Tina's comment talking about Italy. Italy has actually banned industrial solar being placed on farmland at this time. So because of their studies, they were able to determine and got their priorities lined up to say that this was not good. I'm sorry, I didn't hear who asked the question.
I asked the question, wouldn't we be sending a message if we passed an ordinance as a council that any new land annexations or just a village annexation or a village overall, no in-ground solar panels?
Mm-hmm. If you were to do that as a village, certainly it would be helpful, but then I would document that in a letter to the Ohio Power Siting Board, saying that you have taken that action for your village because of your concerns. And this is one of the concerns that's happening currently in Millersport, because the village council is being approached by solar developers because the village hasn't put any rules regarding renewable energy sources in place.
So although Walnut Township has, the village has not. And so now they're going to have to hustle to figure out what they're going to allow and not allow going forward. So, are there any other questions that I can answer for you?
Question. Are they gonna graze, sheep on that, project?
They might. They have said that they will, but if you read, the publication, this is a they may. So it's a little up in the air at this point.
So where these are going, these are farmers that are saying, you can lease my land, right? It's their land, okay.
Yes, sir. They have all signed leases. Most of those leases were signed 5 years ago, with a non-disclosure agreement. And we, as the rest of the community, found out about it about 2.5 years ago. And so then we had to educate ourselves as to what this meant. And I will say that, like many of you, the first time I heard it, I thought it was the craziest rumor ever. And I thought, that's ridiculous. They put these things out in Arizona. Why would they do this here? And I didn't give it any credence at all. And then when I heard it the second time, I'm like, okay, now this is twice to hear the same rumors. For something that sounded so far-fetched to me. So I drove up to the neighbor's farmyard that I had heard had signed his lease up and asked him point blank, what's going on? And he said, it's all true. I was like, completely stunned. And as I drove home, after we talked for about a half an hour, I drove home and I thought, well, it's his land. He can do what he wants. And then the more I thought about that, the more I realized that was crap. I have rights too. And my zoning is rural residential. So how can this be happening that I'm getting an industrial energy plant across the road from my house? So the more I've studied and learned about this and what the dangers may or may not be, the more concerned I was, because as you look at that pie chart, we're talking about a lot of wells. Have well water. And we all know that when East Palestine, when that whole fiasco happened up there, what's the first thing that happened? Mike DeWine drove up there and drank the water and said, see, it's safe. Now, any of us that knows how this works knows that that is garbage, because it takes time for contaminated water, for water to drop down, become contaminated, work its way down and make it into the water source. So when the commissioners say, we'd like to come out and hang out with you and sit on your porch and look at your farmland, these are the things that they've said to us. I'm like, I'll be back with you in like 5-7 years from now. You let this thing go forward and I'll have you out and we'll all have a nice big glass of my well water. See how you do with that. These are serious things. This is why we're seriously concerned about the health and safety of our families. And we're not talking about just mine or just the other people in the room. We're talking about a lot of families who have no say in this situation, because the Ohio Power Siting Board has control of this project, whether or not they're going to approve or deny it, and they're the ones who are going to police it. Now, we've all been down to Yellow Bud, just north of Chillicothe, and we've seen how well they police that. It's an abomination. It is absolutely disgusting. You don't have to know anything about solar. You don't have to know anything about soil quality or any of that to know that that is a disgusting use of that land. And it could be done better. And that's what we're saying. This could be done better. We're not opposed to solar, but this is not the way to do it. This is a big push by our government to try to do what they think is the right thing to do by any means necessary. I call it experimental. When we know a lot more about this, then maybe this will be the right way. But we also know that technology is improving so quickly that what they're putting these ginormous panels on, 1,550 acres. I mean, think about this. We used to have computers that they had to build huge rooms for that had to be controlled for the climate for the computer to work. And now every one of us carries one in our back pocket that probably does way more than that one that was in the big building with the climate control. Technology changes and improves all the time. We're not saying this is the wrong thing. We're saying this is the wrong time and certainly the wrong place. So we need your backing desperately. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Sorry, I know this is like not the fun topic of the day. I'm going to trade you folks.
Sure.
And, if there's anything else we can answer for you, I'm more than happy to.
I didn't know I brought it. My name's Francis Martin. I live at 9370 Cattail. I'm adjacent to this project. I'm a retired Columbus police officer. Moved into this area in 2019. They didn't tell me I was going to be across the street from it, even though they signed those leases. So I had to learn about this thing. Last meeting I came to, and you asked, well, what's it got to do with Baltimore? This map will show you. There's another project north. For a year and a half, we fought. A year and a half, we fought with the commissioners to do this for us, to make an exclusionary zone. And we got them to do it in unincorporated area because they learned what we learned. This is, you guys, this is the other project. Okay, it's right here, Steeman and Cherry. Okay, I know about the land that's being leased, are being sold and developed, maybe, or not, but they're trying to connect us. We know there's a second project to ours. This is ours. I live right here, right here, due west. If fire starts there, I'm in trouble. Smoke is going to come right over top of me. So being a first responder, this is my worries. I have a creek that runs right through my yard. All the water is going to come down from there into my creek, into my property. So that's why this is affecting Baltimore. Because I'm worried about them annexing with you guys not having the rules for it. And they're going to build this thing right underneath you. And you're going to be too late. We're almost too late. That's why we need this letter from the communities out here. You asked about trying farmland. I made the mistake because I didn't read this thing. It shows up here, prime farmland. Everywhere there's dark green. Now in the project, you can't see it. See all this, the darker areas? By the Fairfield County, that's the prime farmland. That's what it is. And that's what we've been fighting. And that's why we need you. We've got letters in our book from other townships. We're even going to the townships that don't have zoning at all and saying, protect yourselves. No, we're not against solar. You can put them on your house. But industrial solar that's 30% efficient, would you hire someone that would do 30% of their job? It's crazy. And it's all pushed by subsidies. And I know all other energies have subsidies. But let the other ones do it. Gas in Ohio is a green energy. Tell our people, let us use gas. Why do we have to do this and ruin prime land that will never go back? They can lie about it. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you for listening.
And we're not reaping any benefits from this.
Oh, no. No. Companies have already bought their lots of energy. And that's a funny thing too. Us who lives here and the ones that don't live here have to pay the difference to AEP. That's why our bills aren't going down.
Solar's very expensive.
Yeah.
It makes it very expensive.
We got to make up for what these Intel, Google, and everybody else is getting at a lower price. We have to make up for it. There is no sense. If I could find one thing about it, you know, I do believe in solar. I mean, I got little solar things on my, put up my flag, and it shows on it, but it doesn't work half the time. I just don't worry about it. And think about it, when you need solar, need energy, is when there's a storm at night. That's when you need it. So just think about it. Please write us a letter.
See, I look at this map.
Correct.
And you say the dark green. is
Yeah.
the prime
And here.
farmland.
Yeah. So I'll take.
So it's not 100%.
So I'll say, I don't want it on farmland. We don't want it on farmland.
That's
How
a
about if we go
whole
to-
different.
Well, it's not a whole different thing, but we feel that farmland should be used for farming, for agricultural purposes, not for industrial utility solar. So I'm glad to retract that word, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. But I mean, we don't want it on farmland. I'm very concerned about the consistent decline in agricultural production we are a breadbasket of the world. And how are we gonna feed us, much less everybody else, if all of this ground goes into warehouses and big housing and parking lots and solar fields?
I have one more question. I've heard a lot about fires. How often does a solar panel?
It takes a lot. Amazon put them on their buildings. We thought that was a great idea. They stopped doing it because some caught on fire in New York, in other states. So we can document and we can show you, are there a lot of fires? But ask a fireman, how many fires do you want to do? Well, how many fires do you want to fight?
It's because of the chemicals and what it contains that makes it, that they cannot put it out. It just.
Well, okay, I'm gonna ask one. So speaking of the chemicals, somebody had said that they were not being treated. So what is your, we have, MSDS, which is material safety. They will not give us.
But we can use the information from other solar projects, other places, and make assumptions that they're gonna have the same types of chemicals that are necessary. For example, lithium, sulfur, so forth. It's actually used in these.
Those questions. Just ask the lady right behind her, because they're right behind her.
The inverters generally are the ones that, the inverters that you see that AC parts, usually, facilities that catch fire. And that's what has all the contaminants in it and that type of thing. Now, sometimes the panels do catch fire. But generally it's the inverters. I know the Yellow Bud project has had 2 fires so far. They've been in operation for a year, a little over a year. Small fires, but they've still had 3 fires.
No, one of my inverters got fired.
Pardon?
One of my inverters got fired.
Oh, good. Okay.
I have inverters. I have one of them. I have 4 inverters. One of them got fired.
Yeah, there you go. I've been over to Fox Squirrel 5 or 6 times now, which is EDF, the company that is the solar company that was yeah. Anyway, but they did the Fox Squirrel project in Madison County. And I went over there about 3 weeks or so ago, and I actually talked to the contractor that was in charge of actually building the project. And I asked them about the storm that they had last spring with the tornado and everything. And I said, well, how many, because I know you had damage, how many did you have to replace? They said, well, we only had to replace about 30 or 40 panels. I mean, that's a 3,700 acre project. But I said, well, what about the hail and the cracking? And he said, well, if the panels crack vertically, or they don't interrupt the electrical, circuits within the panel, he said, that's okay, we leave them. But if they crack horizontally because it interrupts the circuit, then we replace it. So we've got panels out there on 3,700 acres that are cracked and being rained on, and this winter will be snowed on. And why even put the outer panel, to sandwich it together? Why not just leave it wide open if you're going to let them stay cracked? Yellow Bud, they had panels that were cracked when they first installed them. They were, when we took a trip over there, actually 3 of us took a trip over there to Yellow Bud. They were 90% complete in replacing the panels that had been broken from when the guys actually put them in. And so they were, and it had been almost a year. So they had been in the weather, cracked for almost a year. What kind of contamination is there in the soil? We don't know. And the solar companies can't tell us because they don't really know either. And EDF has never decommissioned a project in the United States.
Okay, we will take all this under advisement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other visitors?
No.
No?
None to speak.
All right, so we're moving on. The village administrative reports. The only thing that I have to report on is the project on Gordon Street is all the water lines are hooked up. They're digging sidewalks. They should be poured by maybe the end of this week to the beginning of next week. They'll be grinding and surfacing and paving, next week. So we'll hopefully wrap that project up. The only other thing is when we come to, when we get to motions tonight, the fellows from, Township, Liberty Township would like to come here, to our next meeting, and they would like to talk to us about the annexations in Liberty Township. The reason they like to talk to us is they have two projects going on, one north of, in Liberty Township, they have some commercial stuff, and then a project out by where Westwood Lumber used to be, a housing development. They would like to include us, maybe in some of the NCAs, and all they're asking for as far as Keller's annexation. They're not against it or for it. They asked us to table at least so they could come talk to us, and I'm gonna invite Keller's to come that same night too, so we can all talk about it.
Are they advertising the
Yes.
township is?
Yes,
So
they're coming to,
are we going upstairs with that?
no, it's not gonna be like a debate whether we're doing it. They're gonna explain to us. They're not gonna even tell us exact, because they're not sure what they have going on, but they're just gonna say, yes, and we're gonna, if we just want you guys to understand what we've got going on, we'd like to do
I
something
just don't want a bunch
together.
of people showing up and we can't comment.
I don't think it would be that situation. It's not about their project. They're just
People
saying,
hear annexation, they get,
well, no, we're not talking about annexing anymore. I'm just saying,
no, when people hear the word annexation, if it's for Liberty Township, if it's for us,
right.
that causes a stir.
Well, we've been talking about Keller annexation for the last year or 5 months. Longer than that.
I understand that, but when Liberty Township starts advertising,
Well, they're just gonna say they're coming, but it's not specifically, and they're just talking about future projects they have. So that's where I'm at with that. I guess next will be Matt.
Yeah, so I submitted my VA report last Friday. Other than that, I don't have anything specific to share other than the paper I handed out. That was the service department updates.
Which basically does what Tim's been doing.
Yep.
Brian, I guess we had your report earlier. Mr. Solicitor.
three new pieces of legislation on for a first reading. The first one is to amend the 2024 appropriations. Brian can explain what that is all about and why the money needs to be moved around. Second one is 2024-42, temporary annual appropriations ordinance for 2025. Brian, that does not need to be adopted currently, correct?
No.
And then the third one is 2024-43, which is to amend the employee manual to increase the annual safety boot allowance for service department employees. That does not have emergency language either, so that can go through.
And I was just gonna add, that came out of rules last month. We forgot to include it in the council. And when I read the minutes, I realized we needed an ordinance, and Foreman is a sponsor on that.
Yeah, the first two don't show any sponsors, so those require sponsors. Two ordinances, none for a second reading, two on for a third reading. As the mayor indicated, he's asking for a motion to table the Keller annexation ordinance, and then two tabled ordinances with regard to the home occupation ordinance. I would recommend that remain tabled. That has to have a public hearing, and that hasn't occurred yet.
That's good.
Let's go to village community reports, finance.
Yes, we have a meeting tonight. We, as the solicitor suggested, we are sending over 2024-41, the amended budget to council. We suggested to send ordinance 2024-42, which is the 2024 temporary budget, and the funds that are available for the Water Street water line. And our next meeting will be, next finance meeting is December 9th at 6 p.m.
Service committee.
Service did not meet tonight. Our next scheduled meeting is the 25th of November, 6 p.m.
Safety don't meet tonight. Our next scheduled meeting is right after service on the 25th.
And rules.
rules did meet tonight. We discussed home businesses. That ordinance that we discussed will remain tabled and be sent to zoning. And then I guess I'll have to have a public hearing after that. And we also, Steve Cottrell attended and will be sending some suggested edits to that document.
To modify that ordinance, yes.
Whatever document
Yes.
that was. And our next meeting is December 9th, 6:30 or immediately for home finance.
Thank you.
Hey, I had a quick question. Before we move on, Jeff, on that public hearing for that ordinance 23, how many days in advance do we have to do that? Can we incorporate with the other one,
With the zoning.
with the moratorium?
Three days away.
Yeah.
No. No. I'm talking about that scheduled for the 25th. But can I include this also? Because we'll have to take
For the
this.
25th.
Yeah, haven't had two public hearings on the 25th.
I'll look at the time frame.
Okay. Okay.
I actually have, I'm still a little bit confused about this. Maybe not confused, but just. So if we in the past have had guidelines for home businesses and that came from somewhere. So it almost seems to me that it's been through zoning because it's in the zoning.
Yes, but this is an amendment to
It's an amendment.
so it still has.
It's
to
an
be
amendment.
reviewed.
Okay, gotcha.
And what's it changing about it?
It's adding registration. It says registration, all home occupations shall register with the village on a form to be provided by the village. That was the only form, that was the only change that was.
We don't have a form for just that.
We don't have a form. There's not an actual ordinance.
There's one section of the zoning, you check the box.
We didn't have a form for urban zoning. Ordinance, but we didn't have a form. Right.
Got it. This will fix everything.
All right, so let's move on. Public safety reports. Chief?
Yeah, so, last, council meeting, I neglected to say that, the VFW gave us $1,000 donation a couple weeks ago, just, something they do from time to time.
Very nice.
So, that was nice. That was the check I handed Brian at the beginning of the meeting. I forgot to mention it. at the meeting. So that was, everything else, still beating the bushes on getting some employees. I was looking at Indeed today and figuring that out, what we discussed. We'll talk about that tomorrow, Brian and I, on working that through. I do have 3 or 4 applications out, and I'm supposed to get one of them back tomorrow. So, see how that goes. Other than that, the installation crew was down this morning and took down all the slats on the ceiling that were of no use. And they'll be spraying the insulation tomorrow, and then we'll move on to heat from there. I got the wall built last week, or closed off the dead section, so we're not heating an area that we don't need to heat. And I think that's it. That's my water. I think Joey's late.
We're not meet yet this month. Our next scheduled meeting is the 3rd Thursday, which makes it the 21st at 6:30 p.m. at Station 610.
Super. Okay, just go to village committees and commissions. Planning and zoning.
We have a meeting Thursday night.
We have a meeting Thursday night to go over a couple things. The tree commission. Steve was here tonight asking us for a couple things, which we're going to get worked through. Records commission. Nothing there, Brian. And the bicentennial commission.
Well, I'm not sure that there's really anything new at this point. We're continuing to sell calendars and bricks until the end of the year. I think we're gonna have I do think we're gonna have an overflow of calendars. When those were purchased, they were really not meant to be sold. They were really more of a giveaway to the residents. And they haven't sold that well, so I'm not sure.
Isn't there like a holiday market they're gonna sell them at?
Yeah, I'll get you some tonight. I'm sorry.
Aren't they gonna try to sell them at the holiday market?
They are.
I think a lot of them will sell. I think that'd make great Christmas gifts. Yeah.
And Melody, is gonna take them, I think, around to the churches too.
Okay, good.
So,
I think you'll be surprised. Some of
well,
them.
I hope so, yeah. We have had a few, additional donations. DFW gave us $1,500 for a picnic bench. Rumpke gave us 500. So we're looking fairly good money wise.
We need a big, yeah.
One more good donation would be, we just kind of seal the deal.
All right, well, with that, someone will go back to motions. This is the first reading of ordinance 24-41, an ordinance to amend. Oh, I need a sponsor.
Wait. Motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
I'm sorry, okay.
I would like to make a motion that we take this $28,943.35 that was on this for, total projected available funds for the Market Street Water Fund. And I don't know if we need to put that somewhere.
We just set it aside. That's all we can do.
We set it aside.
Just earmark it.
I am not phone. I have no phone. I have no phone.
Now, Gar, you know that 28,000 is just an estimate. That's just an estimate.
I know the 100,000 was an estimate too.
That's just an estimate.
Okay.
Because the county, I mean, it's really close. The county projects their carrier is only going to be 21K.
Yeah. I get it. So and I don't get it.
How do we do that? Then, Joe.
Well, ask Brian, he's our fiscal officer, so.
It's
This says total projected available funds.
yeah, and that's really close to what the county projects. But you know, it depends on what transpires between now and the end of the year.
I guess I just don't understand why you're against
I'm not against it.
replacing this water.
I'm not. I'm not.
It sure sounds like it to me.
I am not against it. I'm just trying to show you we don't have the money for it.
Can we switch it to all monies they carry on?
All money's like
They carry on.
no, you cannot. It's against the law.
Well, you could all carry over in that fund.
All money's in that fund, in the water fund, or all. You said all. I'm answering your question.
General and water.
Sure.
Okay.
We're not putting a dollar figure out. We're just saying that all carryover instead of
Well,
going.
that would be a better motion than
Future,
that.
it's gonna be earmarked.
That
The only thing I would say to that, just
okay.
that 200,000, Brian and I plugged that in there for like an emergency fund, that padding based upon the Governmental Fiscal Officers Association. That was not authorized by you guys. We would just put that in there as this is what's recommended. So if you make a motion that all monies, that would include that 200,000, but that would give us no buffer.
No, Gar, I'm not against pricing the water line. Hell no. I manage the village finances and I know by law what you can use money for.
We're
just
just prioritizing
keep-
water quality.
I understand
over
that.
rainy
I
day.
can't believe the state wouldn't allow for us to move money
You
in
can't.
an emergency situation.
They won't.
I just can't believe that.
Well, I understand your frustration, but it is what it is.
Are we gonna rephrase that motion or how are we?
Every motion we make gets shot down.
I don't think it's meant to be taken personally.
No,
I think
it's not shot down by you guys. You guys approved the first one, I made about 500,000. It was a 6-0 approved. But then we're told we can't do that money. And it's like, I'm like with Rick, we got money and we can't use it.
There are certain guidelines by the state. I'm going to have to trust you in terms of guidelines that the state puts on the funds and the budget. I mean, obviously, all of us want to fix the problem.
Yes. And if we had the money, I would recommend that you do that. But you saw the list of funds.
Right, yes.
Every fund, except the top one, the general fund, is restricted as to what you can use the money for.
Right. And
Maybe
so
with-
we limited it to
The general fund.
water and general.
That's correct.
maybe with the coming of the changing of the guards, with the past elections, maybe you'll find there will be money out there that will be.
Well, I don't think we should
Readily
stop pursuing that.
I don't either, I don't either.
I'm just
I mean, I'm
saying, if we
just
don't
saying.
take all available money and start dedicating it to that,
There
then
has to be a
when
way
do
to
we
word it, Rick.
start? So my motion then
It
would
would-
be to take all of the carryover in the water fund and in the general fund and earmark it towards water
Okay.
line replacement.
That I'm okay with that motion because one, you're not putting a dollar amount in there because I don't know what that dollar amount's gonna be.
I understand. So it may be more,
It could be more,
We don't know.
yes.
it could be less.
It is what it is. Nobody
But
can
the-
keep the numbers.
But the way that that's worded right now is there's no buffer.
Rick, if I could have
But-
you repeat that so I can write it down.
I'm making a motion that all money that carries over in the water fund and the general fund be moved into a water line replacement fund.
So let me ask you this.
Is it the same as the?
So then is there?
That's the same as the water, what's that water improvement fund? It'd be into that fund. The one that we've been unable to figure out where to get money to
And
fund.
there's only like 16,000 in that.
And that's what
So
I'm saying. Let's take all the money that carries over from the general fund and from the water operating fund and move it into that fund to try to start to gather money to do what hasn't been done in 30 years.
I think what you're trying to say is you want to save that because you're not going to be able to spend 500,000 on that next year.
And we may not be able to, because we're also going to use that money to try to go get money to match or to put with it. to
Right.
More.
That's fine.
I'm just saying, let's put all that money in there. So we've already got our part set
So
aside.
we're going to earmark the available
It
balance.
may lay there all year and we
So-
add more to it next year.
But though in auditing and governmental accounting worlds, that does not mean that you put that in your budget. What that means is you're going to save or just reserve that part of the general fund balance towards that project. Not to be budgeted and
And I'm not
You're
even
just
gonna say
reserving
Main
it.
Street. I'm gonna say water lines, because we got a bunch of lead
Yeah.
connectables out there.
That's a good way. That was my question to you, Rick, was what if there's something worse than that? Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
We know there is.
Yeah. Huh?
You figure it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
And if it goes, of course, in agreement, I don't even know if you is.
Explain.
so let's see.
So the motion that's on the
Earmark.
table now is that all of the money that is remaining in the water operating fund and in the general fund be moved into the water improvement fund. Specifically, I think it's named water improvement fund, but that can be used to improve water.
No.
As seed money to move towards that problem. We're not putting a dollar figure on it. It'll be all the money left in the general fund and all the money left in the water operating fund.
Okay.
And that amount is to be determined once we're done paying all the bills. Maybe more than $200,000. Maybe less than
But
200,000.
we are just earmarking that.
Right.
That's right. We're not spending a dime.
Right. We're not
Yes.
spending on.
Earmarking's a different situation. That's saying, okay, our unrestricted fund balance is X amount, but you're gonna take whatever available and earmark that entire amount.
Yes, because we're avoiding that scenario where we can't get paid anymore.
Yes.
Because it's over here and we'd be deficit.
That's
spending.
different.
We already grabbed it and stuck it in there where we. can
That's
spend it.
different. That's putting money aside towards that project that may not happen next year. You can do that.
Deficit spending.
Yes, you're okay with that.
You can earmark, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And you need an ordinance.
No.
And.
No, just a simple motion.
Yeah, Rick made the motion, I didn't hear a second.
Also good.
I think we had a breakthrough just now. I really did.
Sorry about the phone call, but my wife was getting texts saying that I was in trouble, the law was looking for me. And my truck was spotted down by the hunting area. I just can't find it.
I found it.
Case solved. Just how good we are. It'll be in the next council meeting.
But I don't know if you can earmark in the other fund, the water fund, but I'll check in on that.
And if not.
It's water for water.
But yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So we need a roll call.
Water.
Roll call.
Foreman.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Reading.
Yes.
That's just take money and moving it from the unrestricted up to a certain line in the financial statements. It's reserved for something, not to be spent.
Question mark, just not sure what. yet.
That's okay, but
We're trying to map the way to get there.
Yes, I mean, it's all I ever want, all cement.
There we
All
go.
right. We did it. All right, so listen, we're gonna start with the ordinance reading. The first ordinance, I need a sponsor for. It's to amend the appropriations for the extra money that we need to finish.
Cosgray's response.
Okay.
Came out of finance.
And Cosgray's a sponsor of that.
Okay.
Reedy's a sponsor of the other one.
Okay, I'm gonna read through it then. Ordinance 2441, an ordinance to amend the 2024 appropriations ordinance. Sponsor Cosgray.
That's a shortfall in,
The water and street fund.
water street fund. Yep. We're just making up this shortfall and transferring money from the general fund to.
We're gonna just pay it right out of the general fund.
And do you need to pass tonight, Brian?
Yes, it needs, because the project will be done, the bills will be coming in.
Yes.
So therefore,
We,
since it's coming out of committee, I can waive the 3 reading rule. So I'm not making much. Waive the 3 reading rule. 4 seconds.
we get a roll call on that.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Cosgrave makes a motion, we adopt the ordinance 2024-41. 4 seconds.
Get a roll call on that, please.
We have to have a discussion.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Foreman. McCreary.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Passes. Okay, we're going on to the next ordinance, which, who did you say is this from? Reading. It's reading. Ordinance 24-42, temporary annual appropriations. Ordinance for the Village of Baltimore for 2025, the budget. Any discussion on that?
Yes, again, this is just the annual budget, that we're doing the temporary on for 2025, just to get everything started.
It can go to a second reading and third reading. I still gotta make some changes to it. I gotta ask some questions from some department heads, and if you remember correct, when you saw the budget, I had some yellow highlighted. I don't know the answer to those right now.
Okay, good, we'll go to second reading.
For the second reading. Can we do vote on? No, we go to the next reading. All right, this is the first reading of Mr. Foreman's a sponsor of this. Ordinance 24-43, an ordinance amending Chapter 240, Employee Manual of Personnel Policies and Regulations of the Baltimore Qualified Ordinance in order to provide an increase in the annual safety boot allowance. We talked about this earlier.
Last month.
Yeah, I believe we're just leaving this on for a second reading.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, second reading, there is none. Third reading is the reading of, I asked that we could table this just so we could have all the parties here next meeting of the Keller annexation. So we'll read it.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to read the title to it and then just ask it to be tabled.
Ordinance 24-33, an ordinance accepting the annexation of 83.346 acres, Keller family annexation, directing the village solicitor to prosecute proceedings necessary to effect it and the declaration of an emergency.
And I sponsor this. So this is the property that we've been talking about for 9 to 12 months.
Yes.
And the discussion is the annexing of this. And I believe we're tabling this.
I'm asking.
Requesting
That's
that
what I'm
this be
asking.
tabled.
Yes.
If you're making a motion to table, I'll second it.
Thank you. I'm making a motion that we table this.
Can I get a roll call on that? Or discussion? We kind of discussed.
Yeah, kind of already.
Yes. Okay, roll call.
Let's see, McCreary
Yes.
and Foreman.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Reading.
Yes,
Super. All right, next resolution, third reading, resolution 24-35, a resolution granting the special use agreement for the to the Baltimore Downtown Restoration Committee for the use of various village facilities for the winter market. Ms. McCurry is the sponsor on that.
Yes, so this is an annual event that we've been holding at the park. So we are requesting usage of that property, and that is for December 7th. So I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2024.
I'll second it.
To table ordinances.
Well, we need a roll
Any
call.
discussion?
Roll call,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Discussion.
Any discussion on that? Roll call.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
and Schaffner.
Well, no, you don't need to, but I have a question for Brian. Brian, was there a public hearing on that non-conforming use?
No, because that's zoning,
Thursday.
and that's been scheduled and it's already been posted throughout town.
Table have to remain. Yes.
And that's why I was asking you how soon the other one, because we've already posted this one around town.
So nothing to do on
Nothing to do on that. My other question is, I need 10 minutes. Time do I do that? What do I do that?
You can ask for a motion for that right now, as far as that goes. We need to state a reason for it. Is it, personnel issues, pending or, potential litigation?
Potential litigation. So I need somebody to make a motion, to do an executive session. Pending.
Potential litigation.
I make a motion that we have an executive committee and we go to
And who
talk
will,
about,
everybody around this table. Okay.
litigations.
Second.
Does there have to be a discussion about that?
But there needs to be a roll call.
Roll call.
Okay, Reedy,
Yes.
Foreman, Phillips,
Yes.
Schaffner,
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Now, do you want to finish the
Yeah, let's finish.
regular business and then
Yeah,
everybody
that's
can
what
leave?
we'll do. Is there any new business that any of you would like to speak of? Old business. Yeah, that'd be good. Sorry, old business.
Yes. I want to ask a question, first of all. The bicentennial committee, do we have to do the same thing as they do as far as getting, like, if we're gonna use the theater, do we need a special use, or are we part of the council that we don't have to do that?
For an event?
Yeah.
I don't know, it'd probably be just like that. We probably just have to do ordinance, correct?
I think we can do a motion for that, actually, as opposed to an ordinance. So, because it's kind of a quasi governmental.
I just
Where-
want to.
So,
They're blocking streets for a certain, that's the only thing I can think of doing. You're not gonna block any streets or
No,
anything like
Well,
that.
no, that's true. And then there's just a couple, items that I want to remind, particularly maybe Brian, about. Well, the first one is not you. We did talk about we needed to rezone the park,
Yes.
and so,
I was gonna bring that up to Kenny Thursday night when we have our meeting, but
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then for you, we talked about having a rider on our insurance policy for the heritage tour, so that if somebody found somebody's house.
Oh, okay.
That's not gonna be for.
Yeah.
next year.
Okay.
So I
Could you write that down? Yeah. That'd be a you question. You can contact our insurance company about that.
That's all I have.
any other old business?
Yeah, I just like to, people are watching or whatever, citizens take up the torch, try to stop this Liberty Ridge in a referendum. It's been done before, it could be done again.
Any new business?
We're gonna do a heritage shoot. Heritage.
Any visitors that didn't get to be heard the first time? Okay, well, at this time, we'll ask everyone to exit the building except for the people on this table. Everyone down in the field, so.
someone might say, not him, it's somebody else.
Okay.
Put a pound of corn out there in the salt pond, so you're in the spotlight. That's it.
Yeah, I'll turn everything off when I make the announcement.
We're in an area where cell phone reception isn't.
Just wait till I close things down before we start. Rick, you just wait till I shut things down before.
Yes.
Yeah, please, so there's no issue with that, like there was the
The
last time.
drive from Fairview, from Elton.
Did you just shut it down completely, Brian?
Yeah, I can end meeting for all. We're gonna be entering executive session here at 8:01.
Somebody drove us down to the end of Elmwood, down, they got stuck down there and it sat there for 2 days, but it's gone. They got it.
I was just down there Saturday.
Apparently it's still there.
I never got stuck.
The truck stayed there for 2 days.
It's circling. Just give it a minute here. I don't know what's going on.
Brian, did you have a chance to check to see whether the village received those funds that I asked you about a number of years ago for that, water line project that was 75?
I'm pretty sure they did. I don't have, I don't, I, okay.
Mine have been the exact same.
Because there's no other business to conduct, so.
One of the takeaways I got from that, I read through.
I don't know what's going on.
She's absolutely right. And they didn't study it over there. I couldn't find any from US academic studies. But
You just
one thing
delivered
was
it.
that the soil, the type